This week in movies, we are talking about one of Time Magazine's greatest graphic novels of all time.
Well, one of Time Magazine's greatest novels of all time.
You said graphic. Yes. Adapted into a movie by Zack Snyder. So Zack Snyder did 300 last year, and before that he did Dawn of the Dead. He's a commercial director. But this is a movie based on a graphic novel that was written in the 80s and has been in the works for a very long time. Terry Gilliam was going to tackle it at one point. Paul Greengrass was going to tackle it at one point. Many different drafts of screenplays have occurred, and it finally happened. There was lawsuits, blah, 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 blah. Everyone's anticipating it. It's out. We saw it.
Yes.
You've probably seen it.
You've probably seen it.
You've definitely seen posters for it.
It stars no bankable stars, but many character actors that have been in smaller films. Patrick Wilson, who's been in some good independent films. Billy Crudup, and Jackie Earle Hurley, who was in Little Children with Patrick Wilson.
Nominated for Academy Award.
Was he really? Oh man!
Wow, I didn't.
That was a very good movie.
I was trying to think of the last time an Academy Award nominated actor played a superhero after they were nominated. Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
So that kind of ruins that excitement.
You're like, wait a minute. No.
So
You went.
Watchmen. What is Watchmen about, Jeff?
Well, it's about the idea of what superheroes might really be like if they really existed in the real world. And
during the Cold War.
Yeah, it's a deconstruction. Basically, what happened was about the time that superhero comic books came out in our world. In this world, those things inspired people to put on costumes and go out and fight crime also. And in doing so, it started a whole era of vigilantism, which was then outlawed. And now we're kind of coming into the story after superheroes have been outlawed. And there actually was a person who got real superpowers too. And that kind of changed the whole geopolitical landscape and made Nixon stay on for extra terms and changed the outcome of Vietnam War and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right. Now, I want to hear what you thought about the movie, but before we do, I want to say that we did review the comic in episode written right here.
The first comic book segment we ever did on the show was that comic, and I actually chose that comic to start the comic book segment because it's my favorite comic of all time.
Yeah.
Not an unusual
choice.
Well, not an unusual opinion
Comic
about that particular.
Yeah.
So I'm going to save your opinions of the movie.
Oh.
Alex, what did you think of Watchmen?
Interesting. The little double doochie, which means
on the left-hand
nothing.
side.
I think I loved it a little. I think there was not much wrong with it in my opinion. I mean, I was smiling from ear to ear almost the entire time. I was surprised at how true to the book they were able to be. I mean, it almost like made sense that Zack Snyder, of all people, would direct this movie because he can utilize so much of this sort of technology, the way that he does to build worlds, that it allowed him to basically build the world that we saw frame by frame in the book. So yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. I mean, there was a little bit of, some giggles on how they did Dr. Manhattan's character model a bit at times, but
the anatomically
correctness of the character model. But once the giggle of that wore down, it didn't mean anything really to me. I will get a little controversial and say I would suggest not reading the book first, because I think this movie, unlike a novel where you read the novel and there's so much more in the novel that doesn't make it into the movie, a lot of the movie is almost scene by scene by scene what happens in the graphic novel. So for me, I kind of was like, I wish I didn't know that thing was going to happen. I wish I didn't know that this guy was going to... I mean, there was a lot of joy of like, wow, that's the scene. That is the frame. Whoa, what is... You know what I mean? But I felt like it might have been better for me to read the book later and like open it up and go, holy crap, that's the thing that I saw in my mind. And I have to say, Rorschach.
Yeah.
The prison thing, done. It was like... I could leave now. It's done. It's amazing. I loved it.
Jeffrey Ian Canada.
Mispronouncing my name? That's right. I'm very curious what you think, Dan. I'm completely incapable of looking at this film objectively.
Yes.
And I honestly don't know if the majority of the people that go see it are going to like it. I can't recommend it to people because I don't know that.
Yeah.
But have you ever seen a movie or read a book or heard a song and said to yourself, this was made just for me, just for me? That's the experience I had watching Watchmen. And you know, it's honestly, it's a lot like the experience I had when I watched Fellowship of the Ring for the first time. I went, holy crap, somebody made what's in here.
They got my letters.
Exactly, they got my and they did it the way I would, in my wildest dreams, wish it could be done. It's almost unfair how this might be the most faithful adaptation of anything ever.
That's why I was saying it might be better not to read the book.
There are things that have no business being in a mainstream film, like Ozymandias's pet.
Yeah.
The fact that that's in this movie, that is like a no-brainer for a director to change right off the bat, and that's faithful. To me, this movie is proof that we won. We as geeks have officially inherited the earth. We won. We won. The fact that someone gave $100 million to have this thing made, a 3-hour-long faithful adaptation of one of the most dense comic book properties, and it is completely uncompromising. It's uncompromising in its level of violence, in its content, in its tackling of the subject matter that's in this comic. It is off-putting in the same way that the comic is off-putting, and it's glorious for all those things. The little differences that the movie brings also had me amazed, and the spectacular, elegant opening credit sequence, which so beautifully conveys the fact that we are now in an alternate history. Shows these moments of history, the famous kiss with the sailor.
World War II V-Day.
How we see that almost happen and then doesn't happen. The Zapruder film, all those things Zack Snyder came up with to convey to you we're just a little bit off kilter from where we were. It's so, and I actually got kind of misty just in that opening.
Really?
Yes. Just because of the power of the imagery and the elegance of how crisply we're brought into this world. It's like it's so perfectly conveyed.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was saying the opening would all make really good photographs, really good.
Well, that was
but they're about superheroes.
Yeah, I know.
It's about okay, and I will say one thing though. My one concern, and it's the same concern I had after I walked out of Fellowship of the Ring the first time, and I went, less people are going to now feel the need to have to read the book, just like what you said. And I think that's a shame. And there's a part of me, and we'll talk maybe a little bit about the Alan Moore's take on some of the stuff.
Yes.
And there's definitely a whole part of my geekness that thinks it's a shame that for a lot of people, it will make the comic obsolete.
It will be their Watchmen experience.
What's in their head now, I can't not think about Frodo without thinking about Elijah Wood.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What do you think?
Well, let me first say that do the geeks win?